This is the Refuge Project.
This is the Refuge Project.
Yeah,
the
it
Refuge
is.
Project is a place that we have meaningful conversation in a safe place. And I'm not, and I wasn't at home counting my money.
I forgot what I said until you said.
You know, they told me about that. Somebody said that was the best comment ever.
I was actually at church dealing with hurricane issues, trying to get buildings back up so we could have ministry.
And hey, we'll clap for you. What a great guy.
Not trying to fit myself through the eye of a needle.
It was like not Donald Duck, but who was it? What's his face? Remember DuckTales, the grandpa that just swimming in the money pit?
Yeah, no. No, that was not the case.
It takes a lot of time to count that much money, so I get it.
Sandra wanted to know where the money was.
She didn't. You don't give her access to it?
She's got all of it, believe me.
Goodness.
Whatever we have, she has it.
Well, speaking on spending a lot of money on things, you bought a new mattress. Tell us about that.
Mattress is a big deal. It's kind of like buying a car, because it's not one of those things that you're going to just like switch to again very soon, right? Like hamburger. If you don't like this hamburger, there's another hamburger, right? Mattress is one of those things that you got to do your due diligence. They're quite expensive. Yeah. You're going to use them all the time. Mm-hmm. And the older you get, the more you use.
You need to hit up.
You can save your comments for that for later. Mattress Mac is actually giving 100 mattresses away for firefighters and teachers. But
That's
being the
me.
first 100, right? It's just
that's not me.
So I am struggling, man. This mattress sucks.
So okay. So before you release the brand, did you go to like a mattress store? Is it? I've been to one mattress store in my life. It was kind of weird.
I'm not the guy that's going to go lay down on a bunch of mattresses.
Well, maybe you should have been.
But I've done this before. I just think that. No, I'm not saying it out loud because y'all make fun of me.
They'll make fun of you anyway. Say it.
I just think that my body's changing the older I get.
Oh, yeah.
I've noticed that. Yeah, your body's changing.
You are changing.
And my hips are sensitive.
He's got the sensitive hips.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
He's got it.
I can't say anything around these guys.
But
Hey, look, you
but the
have
hips
hips
don't
that
lie.
need attention.
This is where the whole thing is. Why do you need enemies when you got friends?
Oh, yeah,
you
for
know
sure.
what I mean? Yeah.
That should be the tag of our church, Elam Church. Why go anywhere else? Why do you need enemies when you got friends like us?
Hips like that.
Anyway, so
Okay, hips don't lie. Tell us.
So man, I just been waking up with these back. I got bad back anyways. You know.
Well, your body's changing. You're
a growing boy. You're gonna experience a lot of changes in your body.
Yeah, my weight fluctuates.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, what's that chick?
Lizzo.
You about Oprah?
Yeah, Oprah.
You're like Oprah.
I'm like Oprah. You never know.
You never
if
know
you
which
get
one's gonna be
the fat one or the skinny one.
You're like
never
Andrew
know.
Willis.
You don't know how you're going to wake up feeling.
You could be Andrew Willis. You could be Oprah.
I could be
a lot of
50
people.
pounds down this month and 50 pounds up next month.
Oh yeah.
I'm one of those guys. I'm
yeah.
constantly up and down on diets.
When we can't afford Ozempic, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Speaking of diets,
Okay.
okay, I've been off my diet ever since youth camp.
Nice.
So
Weren't you on one before Hawaii as well?
yeah, all the way to youth camp, I was on one. Hawaii, there wasn't much to cheat on Hawaii. By the way, if we haven't already talked about it, Hawaii food sucks. Anyways, but I'll keep moving. You agree?
It's not Houston.
So about a week and a half ago, I stopped by Shipley's, which is kind of my my downfall.
It's the greatest name.
Got
of
me
donuts.
2 kolaches, and I normally get 2 kolaches, and I come to church.
What kind of kolaches? Regular kolaches?
They got the bold, right? Bold with jalapeno and cheese. So that's what I did. And then I get one for lunch, especially on Tuesdays because we had the podcast kind of go through lunch, so I have something to eat. Well, that was, I don't know, two Tuesdays ago?
Yeah.
Just found it in my bag a while ago.
It's probably still good too, huh?
Bet you won't.
This is the crazy thing. There's not a piece of mold on it. You probably could
That's what I'm saying,
eat.
yeah.
You
It's
probably
so
could
good.
heat this bad
Bet
boy
you
up
won't.
right now.
I bet you won't.
Oh yeah.
And eat it.
I bet
Yeah,
you
yeah.
won't.
Look,
Hey, man,
I mean,
I'm-
it's even
Is this still warm? Hey, we got a microwave, right?
craziness.
I'm hungry, man.
Well, it's like those videos at McDonald's. You ever see that? Like the aging McDonald's cheeseburger and it doesn't age?
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know what's
Didn't that
in
dude
them.
die?
Anyways, maybe that's my mattress problem is too many kolaches.
So are you a firm guy, a soft guy? Or
I thought it was, I took all the tests. You take the test, you weigh this much, you sleep this way, this is your budget. Uh-huh. This says, this is your mattress. And it was like 5 stars, 30,000,
dollars. You got the good one?
I did not. I actually went this direction because this is the, cost effective.
Yeah.
We're boring Nikki to death. She's over here yawning.
Hey, you guys didn't even introduce the guest. You guys are.
I just don't know when I'm
podcast
supposed
hosts.
to be able to talk.
Just go in anytime. And we got some special guests here. We
Yeah.
got the co-founder
Tell
of
the people.
the Bold Conference
Yeah, look at
and staff and all the things here. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But y'all jump in. We got Nikki, Medina, and we have Ruben Almaguer. Yeah, thank you for this.
I almost left you out there.
It's the mattress, I think, that's affecting him right now.
I know
right?
it is, man. You don't get to sleep, man. You don't get to sleep. Hey, I got the last name right over here. She's still the other last name.
in my
to
phone,
me.
she's still Devil's Reyes.
Yeah, me too. She'll always be Delos Reyes.
She
to
was
me.
only Nikki in my phone, so she's still
there
Nikki.
you go.
But yeah, anyways, Dream Cloud. Not saying there's anything wrong with the brand.
Oh, you.
But just got the pick the wrong mattress.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow.
They
What a
weren't kind
nice-
on your hips.
yeah, a little bit easier on the hips. Something a little easier on the hips.
What a nice customer.
This is the thing.
But how did Sandra like it though?
Same thing.
Okay.
She has a hard time falling asleep, but once she falls asleep, she's fine.
Did y'all cheat on the test? Is that what it was? Did it say how much you weigh? And you were like,
What I tell
150.
what I tell everybody, or what I really weigh.
yeah. Is that what it was?
No, I was honest. I would just don't look right here. Let me feel this out.
Wait, it would be a bad situation if it was actually perfect for her, and she would say, "Oh my goodness, this was the best thing
If
ever."
she did, I
was a
wouldn't
good
say
Sandra.
I
You would've
say
kept
that.
it.
I would have kept it. I would have just woke up like an old man every day.
like an old man.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the crux of the situation.
Okay.
360-day trial, sitting back if you don't like it. But they send a king size mattress in this 5 foot tall. We're gonna get out of this conversation in a minute. Though.
No, I'm tired. Sorry, it's nothing to do.
I'm
Y'all are
interested.
talking about
I'm listening.
mattresses and
It's
stuff.
just 5 foot tall box.
Yeah.
And it's 6 inches wide, and they compress it and roll it up. How do you send it back?
you don't.
That's right.
That's your
That's
mattress
tough.
now.
Amazon, they make it easy. Just go on there, print your little paper, you take it to UPS and drop it off, and you're done.
You know what Nikki's thinking
I'm gonna
right
drag this sucker into UPS and just
Yeah,
take
you
it.
should.
now? You know what she's thinking right now? She's like, "How old is Mattel now?"
7 months.
7 months. She's a 7. She's
I
a
haven't
mother.
had no sleep in 9 months, and you talking about your little wimpy hips. You know what my hips went through?
That's exactly what she's thinking. She's like,
She's like, oh,
"Men,
If only you knew.
say it, Nikki. Just say it."
see what you say. Anyways, that's my life. That's my life.
It's hard.
How'd y'all make it through the storms and everywhere? Everybody good?
We were at youth camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all really
Praise the Lord,
dodged
everything
a
is
good
good.
bullet.
We've talked about the storms on 3 podcasts.
Okay,
now,
so we're just going to
uh,
keep moving. I'm kind of behind.
Some of us have been
talking.
talking about the storm.
But kind of
Count.
behind because of the hips. Because
Hey.
I'm not getting no help
Look,
from James.
James
today.
hasn't had buttons
Oh,
like
my
3
bad.
weeks.
I know, dude. I'm sorry.
There we go.
I've been,
Anyways.
I let you down on that one. I'll take that one.
If
That
I
was-
can't pun, it's no fun.
Oh!
That was it.
I got you right on time on that one. I'm here. We're here. We're doing it.
Yeah. So, that's all I got, man.
That's okay.
Well, sleep is important.
It is. It's very important. And I take my sleep serious.
You should. A man at your age needs all the sleep he can get.
I just want everybody to know that I'm not even 50 yet. One of these days.
You act 72 though.
Wait, you're really not at 50 yet? I legit Okay, this isn't a joke. I really thought you were at least like 53 or something.
Oh my gosh.
No, whenever he starts walking in here with New Balance, white New Balance shoes, there'll be signs.
He's pretty close. What do you got?
The one with the
Bro,
numbers on
I
the
He's a
side.
hey dude.
listen.
Never
If
mind.
I'm 53, I got all the drip.
There's. You're not 50 yet?
No, I'm 48.
Wow.
Nah, Pastor
Okay,
David. Pastor
hey.
David was looking solid with that Chicago Bulls shirt.
He
the other
looks
night.
good. He dresses good. Hey, that's my bad. I thought that was an honest mistake. I thought you.
James, there's Honest Abe, there's Honest James.
I'm
too.
sorry. I didn't
Just
think you were
'cause your dad-
75, but I did think you were. I thought you hit the half a century mark. You know why? Because you have so much wisdom and life experience.
Or the wrinkles.
There's no way a guy in his 40s knows what you know. Has that much money that you're thinking about retiring any second now.
I don't have a bunch of money.
You are doing so well for yourself. You got your own business.
You know
and
what his
stuff.
other mattress
I thought
was?
you were a guy in his.
You know what his
50s.
other
That's
mattress
what
was? It was stuff with money. That's why you liked it so much.
You can't quite get the.
Can't get that, groove and
You need about. Let's see. How much would you need to fill a mattress of that in
in what
hundreds?
denomination? Yeah,
You,
hundreds.
need, you probably.
You want me to
need
tell you?
A few hundred, couple hundred thousand. Couple 100,000. You got tired of not building interest on it. No, really, that's
48.
it.
I'll be 49 this year.
Okay, that checks. 49 is
James
after
is
48.
legitimately surprised. He
I
thought you were older.
really am. I thought you were.
Just because your father's a little bit older,
He is older. He's in his 60s now.
but that doesn't mean everybody's father's that way.
That's true. That's true.
I was telling James I saw a picture of his dad whenever he was in his 20s.
Talk about it.
Oh yeah,
Talk to him.
Yeah, he played the part.
Talk to him.
Handsome man.
Yeah.
Nice little beard.
Talk to him.
He had the big afro puff kind of thing with the beard. And
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find me a quick picture of me in my younger days.
did you look like Leland Morin?
He probably did.
You're a redhead, right?
Yeah.
Aren't you a redhead? No.
Yo,
No, it wasn't really.
Leland been putting on the pounds. Come on. Leland, I think, is getting a little too happy.
He's yeah.
Yeah, he's putting them on.
He's blessed
He's getting a little
He-
closer to
to having
The
to
David look.
to look for a new mattress for the proper hip
his
adjustment.
hips are looking more sensitive.
Are we talking about Leland, like the singer Leland?
Yeah, he's a great guy. Great songs. We like Leland.
And he lives in Houston. And
Houston.
Houston has the best food.
Yeah.
Take that,
What's a
Dallas
guy to
and
do?
San Antonio.
What's a guy to do? Oh, David's got his football photos. Let's see.
And you're not a
You're
redhead?
not a- what?
That's not what this is.
That's the
I guess this is red to like put it in
Orange.
perspective.
Yeah, he's got the sun.
This
You're
guy down here.
100% a ginger.
But it was just like strawberry blonde. I guess.
Wow,
the picture
you
doesn't-
and
Very blonde. That's something a ginger would say.
No, really. The
like
picture
saying,
doesn't do it right.
I'm a little bit pregnant.
The picture doesn't do it right. But look at these like criminals that's with me. You can't tell me most of those are not in jail.
Were
right
you,
now.
Number 71 there?
were you always the token white guy?
Yes,
Absolutely.
it was me and this little redhead down here.
How is he a redhead and you're not? You're,
I'm just
you're
it doesn't
strawberry
do it,
blonde.
It doesn't do it justice. It doesn't really do it justice.
What position
I
were
never-
you? What position were you?
I played both sides of the ball.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I played tight end, and
I was
then-
gonna guess that.
Yeah, and then defensive back.
Which one did you like better?
And I like defensive back because I like to hit.
Okay.
But also, this is like a fun fact that a lot of people don't know about me.
Okay.
Is I was a kickoff returner. I had a little speed.
Had the speed.
Yeah.
How many touchdowns did you return?
I didn't have that much speed. You gotta remember,
Hey, it could have happened though.
I went to North Shore, so that even shows you even more about how much of an athlete I was. I started with both ways at North Shore.
Yeah, but this was North Shore. Like,
No, we brought
how many years ago was it? I
72
don't know
years
what
ago.
I was gonna say
That was
we were already winning at that
I don't know
time?
what it was like.
we started winning. That was our first championship.
Let's go.
Yeah,
'cause of
we
you.
brought that winning into it. So
Growing up, going to Deer Park, I was never a North Shore fan, but until I just had to respect how good they
you
were.
got to respect it. You might not like it,
Yeah.
but you got to respect it.
There's some old man somewhere right now saying, "I remember when North Shore's first championship with that strawberry blonde."
1995 is when I graduated. 1995.
Yo, I was born in
I
'94.
was not born yet.
Born in '96.
97.
Maybe I am old.
I'm an
You
80s.
sure-
I'm
did
an
you do
80s
the-
baby.
Did you do the math right? You sure you're not 50? Yeah.
75.
Okay, no, you're close. You're right.
We have a guy coming to
75.
church right. He's really old, and he's got some issues, but he says he walks around and he says he's like 105 years old. He's
What?
not 105 years old.
Okay.
I did the math. You ever heard him tell him the math?
No.
His math don't even math.
No, and he's Houston's mayor as well. He's running for Houston's. He's not, but yeah.
Oh, I get
Wow.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
he
nice.
told me, today's my birthday. I'm 100 years old. I was born in 19 whatever. I'm just like, you're only 63.
1948.
Oh,
Well,
oh, man. Anyway.
I
what do
played football in North Shore.
why don't we get to these guests?
I don't know, but I don't even like y'all anymore.
We love you.
All right, so we got one of the co-founders,
Sensitive
her and her
listeners.
husband, of the Bold Conference that just happened this past weekend at 3200
I think
South
you just worded
Ritchie.
that made it sound like Nikki's here with her
With
husband.
her husband, and her husband
And Ruben is not
here.
Well,
married.
you didn't finish the introduction to Ruben.
Okay, go ahead. Try it again. You said her and her husband.
Start
Both
over.
on. Try it
Nikki
again.
and her husband are co-founders of the Bold Conference.
Shout out
Okay.
Juan.
Shout out to Juan that's not here
There we
today.
go.
He's not here.
Shout out to my brother Juan.
And then we got Ruben Omberger that I don't know if he was a co-founder, but he was very instrumental in everything that went on. And it just gave me joy just to watch these young people over the last 3 or 4 days that they did their, setting up, and then watching them just go through the conference. And I know that it's not just these guys. There's many people like you, James, that took off work and came in and just absolutely killed the sound. I had everybody come in to me and was just like, man, this is the best the sound's ever sounded. And
I heard the same thing as well.
Look at that. I'm clapping for myself, baby.
What did you do? He's like, just turned it up.
No, I
Just
didn't
took
do
this.
that.
I think it's just when you're allowed to take off the leash, people perform at their best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I know. I've been muzzled for a long time.
Probably.
It's probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing.
Anyways, let's get back to the Bold Conference. So, we want to welcome Nikki and Ruben here today.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And
for having
talking
us.
about a fire weekend, man. I didn't get to come on Saturdays when y'all had the breakout session. Been wanting to do breakout sessions for the
3D Love.
3D Love for a while. Haven't really pulled the strings and make
It's
it happen.
tough.
It is tough, and you got to rely on people to do a good job and to teach them and those things. And y'all had some, from what I heard, y'all had some amazing sessions. So tell me, like, what is the mission and the vision of the Bold Conference, and then we'll kind of get into the conference a little bit.
Sure. You want to go, Ruben? I can go. Cool. So actually, shout out to Stephanie Bright, who couldn't be here today, but we were over at our house one time having dinner, just the young adult leaders. There's like a group of 6 of us, and Stephanie just brought up, you know what, God told me. It was so funny because she brought it up so casually, like, oh yeah, and then next year for our conference, which God told me we were going to have. Anyways, and we were like, wait, what? Like, God told you we were going to have a conference? Well, he didn't tell me that, but okay, I guess if he told you, then it must be happening. And so God put that on her heart to do, and from there, we just kind of, went with it, trusted that that's what that's what he had for us. And so Bold Conference, so that comes from Proverbs 28:1, which is it's the righteous. The righteous are bold as a lion, which is the second half of the verse, but it's the wicked flee when no one pursues them, I believe. And the righteous are bold as a lion. And so that's our, and the only reason why I remember that, also obviously because we've been saying it again and again, but the hashtag we came up with was Bold281, shout out Houston, but also 28:1, Proverbs 28. So it worked out perfect.
281, that's Baytown,
Yeah,
baby.
yeah. Okay,
I was telling
thanks.
James that Friday night. I said that the reason I remember that scripture is because his cousin Austin. He says, "Yeah, I'm not a runner. I don't like exercising because Only the wicked run when nobody's chasing them. So, I'm like, that is such a country thing to say, but I get it. I mess with that. Yeah.
Shout out to Austin. I'm calling him today. That's cool. Y'all brought him up.
Yeah, the verse is it's Proverbs 28:1. The wicked run away when no one is chasing them, but the godly are as bold as lions. And it's funny that Nikki mentions it like that, because Steph literally did nonchalantly just mention it, and that's the night that they actually brought me into the Ascension leadership team to be able to contribute and stand as a helper while they were gone. And she had her whole baby, who's now 7 months old. It's crazy how fast time goes. But they brought me in that evening, and Steph just mentioned it at the end of the meeting, right before we were about to leave. She said, "Oh, hey guys, I also want to speak about this vision that I had." And Micah himself, and he had his own vision, but it was something in the capacity of young adults. And then I said, "Oh, I had a dream one time that right after she mentioned that, I had a dream one time that I felt like the Lord had me leading in some capacity worship with other individuals on there. I didn't see who those individuals were in that dream, but whenever it kind of just came to life right then and there in that moment. And I said this at a volunteer meeting that we had. I said that I literally thought it wasn't going to happen until 2025. I thought it wasn't going to happen until 2025. And then here maybe a month and a half, 2 months later, whenever we had a meeting, whenever y'all came back from having,
that was in January.
Then it was just like, oh, it's a thing. I was like, oh, it's a thing. It's happening. It's becoming a reality. Okay. So it's just ramped up from there. And really and truly, God had a plan from whenever Stephanie mentioned that. I mean, it was going to happen this year, 2024. And it did, man. I mean, there's so many details we can touch on, whatever y'all want to.
I just wanted to read our quote unquote mission statement. So Bold Conference says a conference designed to encourage, equip, and empower young adults to be bold leaders of the faith on college campuses and the workplace and beyond, which pretty much encapsulates what we were trying to do.
Nice.
So hopefully,
shout out to Pastor Mark at Elam Church, our pastor, for catching the vision early on. And and just investing in you guys, just from the get go, right? Like he was just like, okay, we're gonna make this possible, and before even really hearing it out, he was already hooked in. I was talking to him this morning, and he was just like. I was just telling him how proud I was. I was in there bragging about you guys, and
we appreciate that.
Yeah, and he was just like, listen, he goes, they did it. They came in, they was just like, if we have this budget, or this budget, this is what we can do at all these different levels. And he was just like, okay, let's do it then. Yeah. Let's go all in and let's make it happen. So shout out to Pastor Mark for catching the vision early.
Yeah. Pastor Mark, definitely, and I can attribute to that. I was talking to Pastor Caesar about this a little while ago. Whenever Convocation came around here in March, there was a final night, and Pastor Mark and Pastor Matt Bell had been already talking. They were in some other part of the church already talking about, Pastor Matt Bell had noticed how the young adults had been so involved, the youth and the young adults had been so involved in serving and making this come to life. And he especially touched on the young adults because he saw a young adults presence there. And so Pastor Mark and Pastor Matt were just talking about, well, how do you get them to be so involved? How is that, this and that, asking questions and stuff. And then Pastor Mark ended up saying at the end of that conversation, well, if we ever do anything, we're going to, we'll let you know, and we'll see about having you as a speaker or something like that. Keep in mind, and I told this to Pastor Caesar, none of us had talked or brought up to any pastor or anybody about what we wanted to try and do this year. So then that same night where Pastor Mark and Pastor Matt had been some other area, we as a group go up to Pastor Caesar, and we're kind of like telling him, hey, we just had this vision and stuff like that. I want to see what you think. I think we're sitting at a table talking about it or something. And, yeah, man, I mean, Pastor Caesar said, okay, well, next week I'm going to meet with Pastor Mark and we'll see what he says. Sure enough, that's whenever Pastor Mark told Pastor Caesar, he was talking to Pastor Matt Bell about what they had been talking about. And then Pastor Mark was on board from then on. Yeah. So it was cool how, all the leaders of Ascension, and shout out to Pastor Caesar, because Pastor Caesar set the foundations for Ascension. You really did, bro. Everybody has a fire and has a desire I heard the spirit of excellence a lot this weekend, and that started with you, Pastor Caesar, and it's transitioned over to every single one of us that are leaders now in Ascension. So
that's what I've heard a lot. That's what I heard a lot all weekend this is what I heard. I was telling everybody, and I was trying to find all the main people, and just like, man, Yeah, I'm so proud of you guys. I'm so proud of you guys. Just trying to just really encourage you because it was great. And everything I heard Pastor Caesar is because of you guys that came before us and it was allow us and taught us and those things. And I'm not the guy that needs the thank yous and all that stuff, but it's good to hear. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's good to hear because you feel like, okay, that all those late nights and time away from family and all those things was well worth it. Seeing the next generation go forward.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I wanted to bring up too, I think one of the reasons why I feel like this was such a success was because we didn't really have to fight any sort of leadership or anyone we didn't have to convince anyone that this was something that would even go well, or that this is something that God wanted us to do. From the very beginning, I think Pastor Mark was already on board, already behind the vision, and I think going into that planning meeting we had with him, it really did feel like okay, we're pitching this idea. Hopefully he's down for it. Hopefully he'll give us a little bit of money, like anything, and he was. I mean, he surpassed any of our expectations. Like, I remember literally asking, wait, so you're saying you're giving us this much? Like, you actually think that we can do this? Okay. But, so I think just the fact that we didn't have to convince anybody. Everyone was already on board. And I think that was super cool, just like the unity behind it already. And again, like Ruben said, y'all did the grunt work, Pastor David, Pastor Caesar. People who came before us were already, just plowing them fields, just ready for us to come in. And yeah, of course, it's challenging for us as well. But I think a lot of the dirty work was done behind the scenes even before we ever got to any sort of leadership. And so shout out, y'all. Yeah. Shout out.
Shout out, y'all.
But also, you guys have been, y'all have been serving in your own ways in the church for your whole lives,
Yeah.
So when people like that come up and say, hey, we got this thing we want to do, I think it's a lot easier to say, yeah, definitely go for it,
Yeah. So around 300 people, 40 churches represented. I think killing it to get that many young adults. A lot of times, young people like youth, you're going to this, right? Your parents say, oh, you're going to go this, or we're going to take you, you're going to drop you off. You get a couple youth groups together. And you have, 300 people at youth camp or whatever it may be, or some event. But to get 300 young adults to decide that they're going to take themselves, they're going to
Friday night,
Saturday night, all say, one of those things is, and they kind of become unified because, it's kind of like politics. Like church is like so divided into this is our community over here, or this is our community over here. To see a generation that really just like, okay, let's take some of those boundaries away and let's do church with a capital C together, and don't worry about, there was like, I said something about, man, these I told somebody, these guys are acting like Baptists. Couldn't get an amen or something like that. And then somebody leaned over to me. He goes, some of them are. So that was awesome. Like there were some Baptist churches represented and some other things. So so they kind of made sense. Nothing was wrong with Baptists, but they're just not as vocal as some others.
Expressive.
Yeah. So you had like this group over here that was very, amen, and then this other one that was very not withdrawal, but a little bit reserved.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of cool. Like some of them are. That's just like that's like super dope.
Definitely.
So to get that many people together for maybe there's some people out there that's like, hey man, I want to do that in my church, or I want to be involved in some aspect of this somewhere else. What was some of the challenges that y'all seen right away? I know that like Pastor Mark took some of those financial challenges away, some of the challenges of we're going to have to sell this to the church, like right off the bat. But what was some of the challenges that you guys had, like taking this vision, which is easy to imagine things in our head, and then just like, apply it to something bigger?
Sure. Great question. All the challenges. Love the challenges. I know from the very beginning, we had an incredible team, right? Of course. And all the volunteers that came in, oh my gosh, we could not have. We took a volunteer group picture, and we were waiting for a couple people to get on stage to take the picture, and I just like looked to my right, and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's and these are just the volunteers. These are just the people who are helping. And I was just like so like in awe, like I couldn't believe it. But something else I will say about that, all these volunteers didn't know how much, I guess, and this probably just goes into just, I guess, one of the challenges of leadership, you know, like all the things that are going on behind the scenes. One of the feedback we got this past weekend was it would have been nice for volunteers to know what needed to be done instead of having to constantly ask, you know, me or Stephanie or Ruben, what needs to be done, which is great. I thought that was awesome that people were even asking us. But I think one of the biggest challenges from the very beginning was, you know, Steph and I, you know, having all these meetings of trying to plan, but like nobody else knew what we were planning. And so at the very end, like, you know, the last 2 weeks before the conference, we were trying to somehow communicate the 5 months of planning that, you know, that went into this, just so people could be like, okay, what needs to happen, what needs to happen, what needs to happen. But it was hard because when the conference came, we were just running around. And so sometimes people were like, wait, like I said, like what needs to be done? So I think we should have communicated a lot better way earlier on than, you know, so late in the game, which again, like I said, like once the time came, people, you know, hit the ground running, like they were ready, they were there, they were, you know, willing to do whatever needed to be done. But I think in a leadership perspective from our end, I think we should have communicated that way earlier. That way we would have had more help from the beginning, if that makes sense. Yeah. Also, you know, there's a challenge of, you know, not having too many cooks in the kitchen.
I seen that on one of y'all setup days. Y'all had so much help that was really hard to give everybody something to do, right? And I think that's a lot of time that's a challenge too, because you don't want to have people standing around with just like, man, I just wasted my day by coming up here. So there's that balance of like, man, you want all the help you can get, but well, maybe we need to cut it off. Let's look at these jobs and see how many people we need. Hey, don't come this day, but come this day,
right.
You know?
Yeah,
and what a better like challenge to have is like too many people want to help.
Right, no, for sure. So I think we probably could have delegated better earlier on. And like Ruben said, we had that meeting in January when we were like, okay, this is going to happen. We just had the conference in July. So I feel like that, yes, it's a lot of time, but also it's not a lot of time at all, like to plan a conference. No. And so I think that was one of the biggest challenges was just being okay. Also, this is a personal problem, but being okay with letting more people into the planning process. Like I said, not too many where you can't have your hands on things or be able to easily delegate, but it's okay to let go and let other people, you know, use their gifts, use their talents.
Is it?
So I'll definitely
I have the same problem because
to a point.
You want to keep it there where you have control, because I've seen it get out of hand on the other side. Like you like give it too many people, too many like their own ways and their own things, and then before you know it, the vision doesn't look like the way it's supposed to look.
Yeah, so there's a lot of learning.
And then you get into that situation where you have single point failures.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. You know, you want to have redundancy everywhere you can. And I remember one of the early conversations in their planning meetings where they came and said, hey, we need to talk to you. Had them over to the house a couple of times. And I was really, I was pressing them. I was pressing them on their vision. Because if they can't back it up, if they don't have a fire for it, then they shouldn't have done it in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was doing that on purpose. And I think at some points I even told them your vision's too small. You got to go bigger.
Yeah.
And if you get shot down by our senior pastor. But don't ever don't err on having a small vision for the sake of like budgetary requirements or what, because we don't know. And honestly, the church's buy-in was a lot. I told them I wouldn't have given you that much,
especially for your first time.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because I think the first
I've never had that, but let me tell you, I put on a lot of events here.
Yeah.
Never had that budget.
And I told them, I said, I've never gotten a penny from the church.
Yeah.
In all the stuff we do, right? Granted, we don't do conferences and stuff, but that's just kind of what it was. So a lot of this stuff was the first time, and I think it worked out even more because now there's just a buy-in. And Pastor Mark, there's so much to say about his leadership, because he's the kind of guy that says, hey, even if at the end of the day your team grows because of this, your camaraderie as a team and your unity as a team, it's worth it.
Yep.
But the lives of all those young adults that came here were touched. So you guys definitely approached it with a spirit of excellence as well. And in every facet, I saw smiles. I saw hands being greeted. There was not one person that I saw left in a corner. It was really cool just seeing some people that had they've taken a real strong position. But I'm never coming back to Elam Church. And then I saw them walk through the door. And these were people that always they looked at our church and said, well, where's the young adult presence? It's like, well, that's why you're here. But, you're going to jump ship and run and go somewhere else. And I remember having those conversations with Juan and Nikki whenever we were transitioning as far as the direction of Ascension. Where's this important, or why is this important? And why another young adult group, right? Houston's full of them. What's the difference? Why is Elam's young adult group? Should we even have one? And what's the importance behind it? Why would people even come here and stay here? And that's maybe a bigger conversation for another time. But I think the biggest thing out of that conversation that we had was that what we're able to offer as a church, and this is baked into the DNA of what this church is that goes back decades now, is that we're not going to be the ones that have all the bells and whistles. If God has that for us, hey, bring it on, right? Mm-hmm. But we've never been that kind of church. We've never been the bells and whistles kind of church. And they're nice, but what we're able to offer people, and this is I see this in every ministry we have in this church, is what we're able to offer people is a real genuine relationship with them, a care and a concern for the individual versus the number. And that was absolutely communicated from... I was just a fly on the wall that weekend, I was just looking, I was just there helping where I could, but I trusted y'all's team so much. I knew y'all were going to do it. And if there was ever any failure, I'm pretty sure Pastor David felt the same way. If there was any point, because I saw him, right? If there was any point where he needed to jump in, he would have, right? But there was, it was inspiring to see it, and I knew, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think he knew too. You guys got this, and it was awesome to see. I
did, and I never felt one time like somebody needs to step in here. Somebody needs to say something. Now there was some time at the end of every night, I pulled Stephanie or Micah aside and said, "Okay, think about what could you have done better? Like let's not forget those things because we need to get better for next year. But let's quick decompress." Think about those things, and now let's get ready for tomorrow, right? So, and then I think we pulled some of you this a little bit on the Saturday night. But yeah, what was some of the things behind the scene that you seen like exponential growth out of your group or a certain person?
Oh man, so we had. I think this was really cool. And they started a huge volunteer group message. There was about 40 people in that group message. Really, really cool. And side note, there was no, how sometimes when you start a huge group message and somebody has that Android or something like that, so then you're gonna have all these separate messages starting and stuff like that. It actually didn't happen.
Wow,
and I was grateful.
I didn't even realize that.
I was
adults love Apple.
Yeah. Unfortunately, James left it yesterday.
I left it.
Unfortunately, but
40 people.
I'm surprised you stayed.
All liking the same message all day.
Yeah.
All day, dude.
Hey, that's not James.
That's not me.
That's not James.
I said it's over. All right, guys. We're
out.
good. Thanks. Best of luck.
You have a lot of old man tendencies.
I do.
I'm old.
I do, dude. Dude, let me tell you how old I
Hey,
am.
when you're 48,
Dude, on my computer, it automatically connects to the phone, so it'll give you the alerts or whatever.
It goes da-da-da-da, Windows 95.
Yo, it goes. It dials up.
Yeah.
No, I get the little notification. I'm trying to work on the computer, and it just keeps notification.
Yeah.
I figured out how to get it to not ding, but I can't seem to get it to not pop up the message. So I was like, dude, I got to get out.
No, it's really a tribute to the fire that just started this weekend though. But in my point in mentioning that though, it was we started that group message. I don't know who started. I think it was Steph, maybe Steph or you, Nikki, and it had all the volunteers, and seeing some particular individuals just be delegated to start the prayers, having the prayers leading up to the conference, or the verses that were being led up to the conference. We had one particular individual in charge of the prayers and the verses, and that would just get somebody throughout their day just fired up, started, hey, pray for this, pray for that, pray for this, pray for that. Also, messages that were being sent in there to basically change a perspective on look, this is our church, and our church is basically in the line of the target right now, because it can go either really good or it can go really, really bad, and it's going to fall on all of us as a whole. And so everybody bought into that picture of like, no, we want to have, like, again, the spirit of excellence. We want to do well with this. We want to steward it right and correctly, because it's going to fall on us, and most importantly on Elam Church. And thank God his hand was upon us the entire time, knowing that it was our first time. And a trip, and going back to that first question that you had with Nikki and Steph, and Micah, Chris, and Juan, and Nikki and Steph literally had their hands on so many of the social media, and honestly, that was the behind the scenes stuff, was preparing all that stuff, social media, pictures, flyers, all this stuff was all a tribute to them. And I mean, and I think that was a huge, and they could probably say it was a huge challenge, not delegating it to somebody else, but in their defense, this was like our baby.
Yeah.
This was like our baby, because it was our first time. We wanted to make sure that it went the way that we had envisioned it. And because in the end, it was going to fall on us. Mm-hmm. And that was our biggest deal, was just making sure that we had our hand, not because we wanted to say, oh, we did that. No, it was because, no, we want to make sure that it comes out to the best possible way. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, we had people that saw that fire within us, and they're just like, oh, dude, we're doing this. Like, our leaders, like, and they said it too. Like, we saw our leaders doing that, and they were like, no, we want to do it too. So it's just setting that example in that aspect. But there were Pastor David, there was numerous individuals that like just kept on saying, where can I help at? Where can I help at? Staying to the very late to want to help out. That was a blessing.
This is one of the things this is a behind the scene thing that I say. It was back as far as I can remember as a child, even in the old building. I used to see Pastor Hale. He would walk the sanctuary and pray over chairs. And then I remember Pastor Ron doing it, and Pastor, you can go in on Thursdays most of the time and see Pastor Mark walking the sanctuary and praying on chairs. And I was in the sanctuary, and man, it blessed my heart so much to see the young adults praying with those chairs, and that's the like behind the scenes. Like, we can be in excellence in all those things, right? And making sure that the stage looks right and the music's right and all those things. But at the end of the day, what is it about? Mm-hmm. It's about those young adults praying with those people, because each one of those chairs represents a soul, right? Mm-hmm. And for y'all to have that in your focus was an amazing thing. And that little things like that could be overlooked, especially when you're trying to do your first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, Ruben, let me ask you a question. You were very instrumental in coordinating the worship for the weekend. What did that look like? Were there any changes, rapid fire things that needed to happen, maybe opportunities that presented itself that just kind of weren't even in the original scope of the mission? Anything like that happen?
Well, leading up to the conference, I had originally Steph and them had said, "Hey, Ruben, I mean, it's funny because Nikki, and whenever they brought me in to be a part of the Ascension leadership team, Juan, shout out Nikki's husband, Juan Medina. This guy is hilarious. He is funny.
Whoa.
Hey, I'm about to blow up his head, so I'm sorry, Nikki. Whenever you get home, okay?
He's really funny.
All right, no, he's super funny. No, he made my.
I need Juan's number, by the way. I got like most people's number. I need Juan's number because I need to reach out to him.
You won't get a message.
Yeah, you
back.
won't get a text back for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not a great text.
No, but like,
like my
they designated me with a funny like title of like head executive worship coordinator / something else. I was like, dude, y'all are nuts. But
shout out 24 Pack anyways.
Yeah. Whenever we in preparation for this, I remember like leading up to this, we had many nights, many young adult services where there would just be like a song. We have worship on those Wednesday nights, and there would be a song like, hey, or somebody would text me, hey, can we do this song that's on the worship team as well? And go do this. I said, dude, that's crazy. That song has been on my heart, and I've been listening to that song too. So it's like God had like over the course of the several months leading up to Bold, certain songs that were being played or just listening, and they're older songs as well. I was like, no, this is going to be for Bold as well. So I started making a list of the songs that were going to be there. And actually a couple of songs that were on that list, I took them off leading up into it. And you know what? God brought them back in there because Kieran, our guest worship leader, which that's an amazing story as well. We asked him, hey man, so I had the list, said, let me shoot it over to you. Let me know what you can lead, what you don't want to, and stuff like that. And he was just like, no, bro. I mean, everything's good. He's like, we can maybe change this one. And the one that I changed, some that I changed and taken out, and the one that he wanted, he brought back in the one that was supposed to be originally in there and stuff like that. So that was really, it was super cool. And then, any challenges to leading up to the worship and preparing that? No, there was really none, other than the fact that everybody was bought in and everybody saw the fire. I think I'm a huge proponent of being a catalyst for people and wanting people to see a fire. And I think that everybody saw mine and how I wanted to display that in leading. And I think people bought into that, right? Trusted the process and everything. And that's what really made it not challenging, Pastor Caesar. I mean, or just now, no changes. I mean, we added some different things maybe the night of, but like our musicians, Pastor Caesar, Nikki, Holly, I mean, just ridiculous. And having Kieran there too, and I said this to Pastor Caesar, I said, he's a professional music artist, and he does this, and he said it, he does it every day. We didn't do it. We didn't want to be excellent for him. Rather, we saw him be there. His presence is just like naturally, but this like spirit of like, dang, do we want to get this done? Not for him, but more like do it perfectly for the kingdom, for God. And to make sure, and honestly, I had numerous compliments about the sound, about just the music in general. I mean, all to the glory of God. I mean, it was amazing, dude.
A highlight moment for me, 200 young adults singing Jesus Loves Me. Golly. Yeah. I sat on the back row crying, bro. Literally in tears. This song that when I was just a baby, maybe I could talk, but just a little kid when I couldn't go to sleep. The song my mom just says, just lay there and sing Jesus Loves Me until you go to sleep. Mm-hmm. To this day, this is what I do when I can't go to sleep, sing Jesus Loves Me. I don't count sheep. I sing Jesus Loves Me. And to hear 200 plus young adults singing Jesus Loves Me.
I sing it to my kids.
It got me, man.
I don't know. I don't know who it was. I think it was Becca, Ruben's sister. But in that moment, I mean, I was on stage playing, so I wasn't really like. Sometimes, you look out in the crowd, but you're doing your own thing. But Becca got a picture of Juan holding Mateo, like, on his, like, shoulder. And his, like, hand was raised. And Mateo was, like, turning and, like, just looking down at his hand. And it was during that song. And Juan later told me, he, like you said, like, he was just started bawling like a baby because it never hit, I guess, in that way of, like, oh, my gosh, I have a kid. Like, what a calling to have, a child and raise them in that way. And anyways, but... Dude, that was crazy too. I mean, that's another conversation. But just having my like baby there, even though he's not even like he's only 7 months, but just having him around all these people who love Jesus, who love him, and just loving on him really well. I think that's really cool. And I know y'all have kids who are growing up through
Sandra
that.
Sandra said, "What a great spirit your baby has," and he was so good, and he was being passed around from young adult to young adult, and he was just going with it and just loving life. And
that's a good compliment.
Yeah.
Thanks. So, I'll let him know when he can understand words.
What I'd want to add to the worship is that one of our young adults that attends Elam volunteer. She told me. She's like, she said, I was always wondering whenever I worship, I wonder too much about what people think of me. I'll close my eyes but I won't lift my hands because I don't want people to look at me and stuff like that. She said, but this weekend, she said, I had never felt it before to where I could my hands just went up and I would just praise the Lord. And I said, and I got chills whenever she said that. And I'm getting chills thinking about it now because I prayed, Father, like before the services, I said, Lord, Holy Spirit, just take down every barrier that I have as a leader. Every wall that's up right now, just bring it down. And I don't know if y'all could see my tears when I was up there crying. I was bawling my eyes out. But I mentioned that to her. I said, hey, look, this is something that I do in my leading. I said, if you do this for yourself and you just go walk into that sanctuary and you say, Lord, just tear down every wall that I have, every barrier that I have, watch what happens. And she's like, that's exactly what happened to me, except for I didn't ask for it. And she's like, I just lifted my hands and it was just so beautiful to be able to worship with everybody, not caring what people thought of. So it's just.
So as leaders, and this can go for everybody, you can all answer this if you want. How do you get past, God has called you to be a leader, but you're not the best version you'll be at one point, even if it's like in talent or you just haven't grown into it yet? How do you deal with that? And do you have any type of like hesitations to lead in that area because you sometimes you don't feel like you're proficient enough in it?
I have one thing to say about that. I think two words come to mind: faithfulness and humility. And something, this kind of goes into answering your question, but I wanted to say it before too. I think and we'll probably get to this later also, but obviously everyone's super hype, camp high, conference high, like, whoa, it's crazy. Like James said, we still got people popping off in the group chat and like, man, this is awesome, blah, blah, blah. But people are going to forget, not necessarily forget the conference, but, it'll fade, and that's okay. But I think as a leader too, it's so funny. The conference was over. People were out, celebrating like a little celebration lunch or whatever. And then Monday came, and I had all this long list of things that I still needed to do for the conference. It's like the conference is over. Like, for people, it's just like, oh yeah, it's done. That was awesome. It's great. Conference high. But I'm like, I got to submit this to the budget. I got to return these. I got to do this. I got to call this person. I got to do this. And it doesn't end. And I think as a leader, which is fine, like a big thing for me when humility, I guess where humility comes into play is, it's okay to not get the praise from people, and I needed to be okay with that, and God kept reminding me that. And I think it was cool because this conference, a lot of the things I did were very behind the scenes. Like I moderated a panel, for like 30 minutes. Like I really didn't do anything in front of people, and I had to be okay with that. Even knowing like all the work that did go into it, it's like, Nikki, you're not doing for people to, like say good job. You're not doing it for that. It's cool. Like you said, Pastor Dave, it's cool to like be affirmed or whatever, but like, that's not why you're doing this. And so I think humility was a huge word for me. And I think in answering your question, like how do you get through any insecurities or where you feel like you fail as a leader, just being constantly reminded that you can always be better. And so obviously that humbles you, but also just being faithful to keep showing up and keep showing up and keep showing up. And specifically in regards to this conference, man, we have, like Ruben was saying, we have, a bunch of people who used to come to the church who don't come anymore, and now they're back and they're ready and they're on fire. But, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but, it does sometimes where people just kind of, get back into their routine. They stop coming, whatever it is for whatever reason. But for us to still be faithful, and I think one of the big things, hopefully that people understand from, weekends like this or weeks like camp is that no matter what happens, like, they're still going to be there. Like, and, it sucks that sometimes it takes something, tragic to happen in somebody's life for them to come back. But as long as they know that God is still going to be there, we're still going to be there. Like, we're faithful and we will always be here, whether you're off doing your own thing or, whether you finally do decide to come back. And just that, just reminding myself, like, one, it's not for other people. It's for Christ. And then two, just being faithful to show up through the insecurities, through the doubt, through the, frustration of, man, like, it doesn't, like I said, this is me just being super transparent. It's like, yeah, there are times where like people would like compliment so-and-so and so-and-so and so, and it's like, man, like I did so much work, but it's not about that. And I just kept having to tell myself that again and again. And I think God knew that I needed that. And so I think how he orchestrated everything this weekend was great. And yeah, just being faithful to show up even when the fire's down. Just, staying humble about everything too.
Yeah, so. I think that's one of the most important aspects for young adult ministry in general is being able to exemplify faithfulness, because faithfulness is a component in a young adult's life that they just don't have a lot of experience with. And whenever they see other young adults that have bought into the vision, not just of a church, not of a conference, not of any kind of program, but they've bought into Jesus and what it is to be rooted and grounded in Him, and they see the fruit coming out of your life already, it is inspiring to them. It will make them stay. I remember having a conversation, I think you just had graduated. You're already a leader in youth at this point, but like Micah and all them, they weren't, they were still in high school at this time. But it was one of those late night meetings after Wednesday nights, and we were sitting right there, right in front of the door, and right on the floor. And I don't know how the conversation came up, but it had to deal with faithfulness and whatnot. And I was telling you and Micah, Miranda, some of the others that were there, I said, it's a hard thing for me. And at that point, I was 29, I think, right? 28, 29. And I was telling you guys, it's a hard thing for me to tell y'all to die with me, because I knew where God had called me already, and I was committed to planting myself, allowing myself to root here because it was good ground, right? And this was the ground that God called me to. And I said, well, it's really hard for me whenever I got you guys that are on the, on the cusp of, the rest of your life, to sit down and say that I need you to die here with me. I can't make that decision for y'all, but I have found where God has me and what God has me doing. And I hope you guys find that one day as well. But I will never ask you to. I said it's a hard thing for me to ask anybody to come and die with me. And over these years, because it's been years since then, I have continually seen you and Micah and the rest of the leadership team that came on after, even Steph, which came, not too many years ago now, which is even crazy to say, right? But, y'all have committed to this vision of not just like come and die with me, but it's not me. What that statement means is are you willing to invest your life into God's program, what He's built up here at this church, specifically for the sake of the gospel, for expanding the kingdom, for doing what you can, and to see that, you're talking about faithfulness, to see that starting to manifest now in these impactful ways is it really is one of the greatest gifts of my life that I've seen.
It's so good.
And it has nothing to do with the results of a conference, but it has everything to do with the internal growth of each and one of y'all, right, personally, and how you submit yourself to Jesus. So, in the back, I was just like, man, I remember those conversations because it was just wide-eyed and idealistic Micah and all that. You remember, right? Yeah, you remember all that, and just a lot of kind of firing from the hip and stuff. And now seeing y'all come into this level of maturity in your faith is one that's inspiring to me. And I know Pastor David probably felt the same way too, where it's like, this is what I left. This is how God has taken care of it. And this is what God is doing. And I feel really grateful for having a small part in y'all's life. And, same.
Yeah, you're leading right into what the Lord was really just putting on my heart when Nikki was speaking. When you're talking about faithfulness, and faithfulness doesn't mean perfection, right? Because of Micah, he was really dealing with it, trying to find himself as a young man. He wasn't performing in perfection, but he was performing in faithfulness. Yeah, he was finding himself, and we always have to, as people, we always have to look at two generations: the one before us and the one behind us. Right? We have to understand that the one that came before us is very valuable in wisdom and understanding and falling in underneath them. And the one below us, behind us, now it's our job to come and encourage you, because we know that it's not about you having to have encouragement, but it feels good to encourage, right? So it's our responsibility to take that next generation, encourage them and bring them along, but also to understand who came before us and be able to fall up under their leadership and the wisdom and all those things. Yeah. So it's, as a church, especially the generation ahead of us, we have to remember faithfulness is where it's at. We can't expect perfection. And a lot of times as we see young adults, they did it again.
Yeah. Not faithful to nothing.
Yeah, not faithful. And how come you ain't already got this? You've been doing it for 25 years. Oh, yeah. Yeah, when they've been doing it for 65 years and they still have imperfections. You know what I mean? So it's up to us to make sure that we're looking at the right things. Stay faithful. And God's allowed you to grow. He's going to allow you to grow through there's things that I preach now that I would never have preached 10 years ago. And there's things that I preached 10 years ago that I would never preach now, because I've grown in my faith and God showed me His words in different ways. Yeah. So it's all about moving forward, but never remembering the generation before and behind.
And on that, like Nikki, you're talking about work that never ceases to happen, right? Like the conference is done, but you still got stuff to do for the conference. you know, I in a lot bigger scope too. And Pastor Dare was alluding to some things that night as well. Whenever I talked to him, you know, there's a lot of work from the church side and the church programming, the bigger church here that now, and I mentioned it to you guys as well. You've opened up a can of worms, and it's a good can of worms. But now that pushes the leadership at the church to say, okay, this is what's in front of us. Either we adapt and you know, we figure out what God is trying to do in all this, or we just shut our doors and we double down on these things that maybe have worked for another generation, but now that generation is, there should be where, at least they should be where they need to be now. But now we got to look to what's coming up ahead.
Yep.
And it's very important that, and it's trying to like, it's trying, what it's like is trying to capture lightning, right? But somebody needs to do it. And that's where myself, you, Pastor Mark, all the other board members and elders that we have here, we're faced with some difficult questions, not bad ones, but ones that are definitely going to challenge, you know, our processes, our certain mentalities that we've used maybe for self-preservation that no longer can exist in that same world, because now we have a group of charged up young people, not just with Ascension, but also, and I put this in front of you guys too at that big planning meeting we had over at the house.
Impeccable pizza, by the way, Pastor Cedar.
We made homemade pizza.
Nice.
Impeccable pizza. I like that.
And I told y'all what God was really putting in me at that moment to tell you guys was just how important you are for the next generation. And that those relationships can't be severed, even whenever we are experiencing personal successes in everybody's ministry. That we always have to have those bridges to the next generation that's coming. And what you guys have done, even with like your involvement of some of the youth there that weekend. Yep. You know, I have one youth right now. He's going into his senior year. He is so charged up, man. He is so excited to go into Ascension whenever he graduates. Yep. And that's that thing where people, Pastor Matt Bell and other pastors, whenever we had the conference, how do you guys do it? How do you guys do it? There's no book on this. All you do is you love them, and you love them throughout every stage of their life. Yeah. And once they get inspired enough by that servant leadership model, put their hands to work on something. And then people are going to ask you, you guys are amazing. What did you guys do to have such success? We loved people.
That, and we believed.
Allow them to grow. Listen, we don't need another ministry at Elam Church. No. You look at our ministry list; it's long enough.
We got it.
You know what I mean? We got a ministry for everything. What we need from, especially our young adults, is to embed yourself into the church, and that's if you want the church to look like what y'all had over the last weekend, you have to embed yourself into every area to have influence there, right? Not to say old people move out, right? But to have influence and says, okay, I respect who came before me. I hear you. I'm going to serve underneath you. But now here's the influence that we have. Here's the things that we love. Here's the things that we enjoy, and let that stuff filter through the church. But you can't expect to do that from the Oasis building. If you want influence in the way we run social media, you guys have to be in part of the social media. You have to be in part of the visitation of the hospitals. Right. You have to be a part of the visitor, pass out the visitors cards and say, if you want them to think that this is what Elam looks like, 65 or 25, guess what? You have to have the influence in every bit of those areas. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to encourage you guys in the future. What is Ascension? What is this generation? And to move that church into y'all's generation, which we have to have, or the church will die. You have to be involved in every area. We don't need a new women's group. We don't need a new men's group. We need y'all to be involved in those groups to influence them to move forward.
Right. And it's on that same vein, right? You are Elam's young adults. We are Elam's youth. That is Elam's children church, right? And we're highlighting the banner of Elam because that's where God called us. I'm talking about rooted in faithfulness. I mean, this church has been faithful for 102 years. So many people, right? So many families. So generational. This is a generational church. And whenever we can communicate that to especially young adults that are looking to start their life and they're starting to see, okay, I can't wild out no more.
Yeah.
Right? Man, it did my heart so good to see that brother and sister, but I won't name them,
Right.
but to see that brother, cause I was their youth pastor. One went to the armed forces, the other one did, hey, they wild out a little bit. They're coming back and they're invigorated. They're excited. They're making confessions now that I want to stop doing this and I want to stop going here and I want to stop being this way and I want to serve Jesus now. Man, how good that does my heart.
Yeah.
And it's so much bigger than Bold Conference. It stretches far beyond that, and it goes back to the heart of the leaders that are looking over that. One of the things that I like most, I think, about Ascension is that it doesn't fall in the typical ministry pattern as far as the hierarchy. There's leaders for sure, but they don't have a pastor.
Yeah.
And
like, there's no like polished preacher. You know what I mean? And I think that's awesome because you don't have this guy coming in and just like, in the name of Jesus,
I am
here.
here.
It's community, right?
Yeah.
It's the disciples walking down a dirt road together.
We're
you know
all
what I
in this
mean?
together, yeah.
Yeah, and I love kind of turning it back to the Church of Acts, and this community of believers walking through life together instead of Sunday morning. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the structure of the church while we're doing it right now. Sunday morning, pastor, leader, over you talking,
accountability, covering,
which we need too. We need both.
Yes.
But in that community of the 18 to 29-ish, I mean, y'all got to live together. That's the way you survive, right? As a tribe, to go out there and conquer the next thing, right?
Honestly, I want to attribute that to Nikki and Juan, because whenever they took over, I remember speaking honestly, I wasn't as involved as I could have been in Ascension. And I remember, like, they even voiced it that it was a struggle in the beginning because there wasn't that much buy-in as a whole. But look at it now. I mean, when people started to just not just buy in, but like truly give their hearts over to the Lord and like want to be a part of something, and that part of something is that community. I mean, they were components of that. Like, just like for them individually in their lives, what's been huge for them is community. And honestly, you can see that, and anytime that they voice it, it's like a light in their eyes because they know how big it's uplifted them to bring them to where they are now. So, like, huge shout out to them too. Another thing, whenever you said it's opened up a can of worms. Well, that can of worms, in talking about limits and stuff like that, you said it's going to push us to newer and higher limits. It's so true. But in that, and I heard it multiple times this weekend with some individuals that attended the conference, that they said, I had some really, I'm not kidding. They said that I had some really high expectations for this conference. I said, you had high expectations, like, and they approached me and told me that. And I was like, well, he's like, and honestly, that was amazing. Exceeded my expectations. Wow. It exceeded my expectations. I can literally, he just said, wow, I'm speechless. And so, and pushing us to those newer and higher limits, that just gives us the ability to be able to put more trust in God. And then trusting in God, He's going to continue to bless us in abundance because we're just trusting Him and stuff like that. So I look forward to that with our group of young adults in that community, because as they continue to buy in and just trust the Lord, the limits, really, there's not going to be any limits.
I think y'all have one of the beautiful things going, but y'all have one of the toughest things that y'all have to do is capturing the senior. The high school senior. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, because y'all are right there in the trenches with them. Their next step is you. And then we all know statistics and how they fall off and all those things. And I just say that because my son's coming up. So I want y'all to do a good job with them. Absolutely. But I know how easy it is for him. If he has Korean, Rachel, thank you. He has Rachel like investing in his life weekly, and that keeps him where he needs to be. And I'm just hoping like he finds that next Rachel in the next group, because that's what he needs. Not everybody doesn't need that weekly check-ins. Hey man, how you doing? She even helps some homeworks and different things like that. So that y'all have that coming up to y'all now, you know, and everybody's a little bit different. But I'm just letting you know,
dude, I could talk about Rachel all day. Rachel's like, I hope she listens to this, or I'm just gonna send her the timestamp. Go to hear where we talk about you, Rachel. But even talking about capturing the senior, every year for the last, I guess now almost 4 years, which isn't that long, but since Pastor Caesar handed it off to us, every year Rachel and I take out the senior girls to a breakfast or a lunch or something like that, just so we can, like you said, catch them on their way out, be like, hey, we're here, you know, just hang out with them, you know, because did youth too, so like I know most of them. I think this is like one of the first years where, I mean, I still know them. I grew up with Layla and Luke and all them, but, you know, I haven't been as connected with them. But Rachel came back again. Hey, Nikki, when are we going to do that lunch? When are we going to take them out? And so we're supposed to do it this week. But so I think just having someone like Rachel, and this goes into what you're talking about being a part of a bigger church, because we can't do it by ourselves. Like, we need to be connected to the 220 ministry. We need to be connected to VBS, to the kids. We need to be connected to, honestly, the Joy Timers, because they got crazy wisdom, y'all. Like, it's nuts. Like, I don't have to talk about that. Like, y'all already know.
Dude, my favorite thing, and I got to do it, and it comes in little moments, and I'll let you finish, is like that Pastor Ron came in and we just shut the door for like 10 or 15 minutes. I'm just like, like just soaking it up. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Just leeching off the gray hair wisdom. I don't even remember what I was saying. Oh, but so just continue making sure that we're still doing that. And like you said, Rachel, I mean, that's a high bar. I don't know if I could be Rachel. I could be Nikki, but Rachel's she's on steroids. Just like, we need to check on this person. We need to do this. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for this person. She's crazy. I love her.
On that,
I know you got to go, so we'll just wrap it up with your thought.
We'll wrap it up with this, but just that's a perfect example as well, because this is my approach. This has just been my approach to ministry in general, because I didn't grow up in church. And then, you know, I come here, but I could preach, I could teach, I could do that. Pastor David hands off youth pastor to me, and I don't have a context to how to run a youth group, because I've never been in a youth group. I never grew up in church. I never do this and that. It's just like, hey, I'm just going to give Jesus my very best and whatever. But from my mind, from that point, and now I've got some experience now, but my way of programming for ministry has always come from me not having a context, right? I don't know. And where I wasn't able to be a beneficiary of somebody else's hard work when it came to how they poured out for me. So these things that we do, I always do it with the heart of, I'm not getting anything out of this. Mm-hmm. This is not for, this is for youth. This is for young adults. This is for somebody else, right? I will never, ever glean from this, like personally. In that way, in the same way that the people that are the ones being ministered to are, right? And that's okay, as we were talking about earlier, right? Knowing that it's okay for you to do that. Rachel, she's been here since forever, you know, probably even before she was born, she was already tied into here. They've tried different young adults groups in the past. It never worked. It didn't stay. It did what it needed to do. It was gone. Ascension has been running now for close to 9 years. I think y'all have taken, the last 2 years of that? 2.5? Almost four. Wow. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, you know, and
you're not even that old. You haven't been out of youth that long, have you?
That's wild. But with that being said, like specifically with Rachel, and this goes back to more the DNA.
I'm old. Okay, I'm officially old.
You are old. We all knew this.
I'm telling you, dude, you're over 50. There's no way you're not 50 yet.
He's talking about that guy.
I still remember her text, Pastor David. We're talking about this in school. What do I say?
But you know, Rachel, the way that she's able to feed into things and to give her heart to people, and especially the next generation coming up, it kind of really exemplifies that thought. Like, she never got a chance to experience that young adult vibe that is here and that is present now, but she's still so bought into making sure that happens for the next generation that comes. And that is an example of just the type of leaders that we have here at Elam, where you know, Pastor Mark is never going to benefit from a young adults group, like as far as personally, like that. Yeah. As a pastor, it's different, but just he's not going to be the one being ministered to in that way.
Yeah, or even his family are before or after that too, right? So he's not going to get that personal benefit off of that.
Exactly,
yeah.
But Pastor David's kids are.
Yeah.
My kids are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe y'all won't be the leaders at that point.
Yeah.
For Luke, yeah, because he's already graduated. But like, you know, for my kid.
Yeah.
But if we can keep it going, and we understand why we're doing it, and we don't need the pats on the back. That it's for the kingdom. It's not for us. I think that's where, whenever, we can't fail that way. We can't miss that way. Whenever our heart is positioned to honor Christ in everything we say and do, and the moment we start lifting up a banner, whether it's a church or self, that's whenever we err. And we talk about that in this podcast all the time.
Yeah.
Where people start lifting up their own personal banners, and it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
And growth, you know, I pray for y'all's growth. I pray for y'all's just not only in the group as far as numbers,
Yeah.
but you know, your spiritual health as well, and that it grows right, that it grows at a pace where it's sustainable, where it's understandable, and where I've told y'all this. My prayer has constantly been, and this is mine from the youth group, but it's for the church in general as well. God, give us the amount of people that we can effectively minister to. Because if we, get 1,000 people here, extra people here, we can't effectively minister to 1,000 people. So what? Just for the sake of number, it's fine. Hey, look at our church. We have 10,000 people.
Or you give us 1,000 of you two,
and then
we can effectively do 10,000.
exactly,
Right?
Exactly. So, you know, that's always kind of been the thing. But yeah, you know, you guys you've been positioned by God in a very unique position, right? You're in a very unique position to start telling your young adults, die with me here.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
But you know, what did Jesus say, right? Those that lose their life for my sake will find it.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by come die with me.
Yeah.
Come and really find your life.
Very good.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys, man. Y'all are such a blessing to just watch and see you guys grow from youth to mamas, right? And to see you grow, brother. I just told you that the Lord just told me that there's a spirit of excellence. And you know, it's not just you, man. I feel like there's a spirit of excellence on your whole family.
Yeah.
To see your brother do the same thing, and it just it just makes me proud to be just involved, not even as a pastor, but just to be involved at this church, you know,
in the same orbit.
Yeah, for real. And I know that if y'all keep doing the same thing that y'all are doing now, this church is going to be here for another 100 years.
Oh yeah,
you know, because you guys are trailblazing in your own way, and I'm proud to be right alongside of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
We're proud to be
Thank
around
you.
every single one of y'all as well. So,
and Stephanie and Juan and Micah
And
Chris and all you guys that just put in the hard work behind the scenes and all the volunteers. We love you guys.
Yeah.
And we love you.
Y'all pray for Pastor David's hips.
This is the Refuge Project.